All right, so we're going to talk about section 6.1. Okay, and for the course of this, or for this course, okay, we're going to talk about asymptotes. Okay, and how you end up getting those. Now, what an asymptote is when you have a graph. There's a point at which on the x-axis and the y-axis at which the graph will not cross. Okay, so if you think about it, that's a restriction on the domain. Okay, so when we talk about this, how do we have restrictions on domains? Okay, and that's when you deal with fractions. Okay, so you're going to get asymptotes or restrictions on the domain when you have fractions. Okay, so rules to find them. Remember, how can we get a restriction on the domain is the bottom of a fraction cannot equal 0. Cannot equal 0. Okay, so this asymptote, okay, the vertical asymptote will be when the bottom equals 0. Okay, and then you'll get some where they'll go horizontal. Okay, so horizontal asymptotes are a little bit different. Okay, and we'll talk about that. Okay, so rules to find asymptotes. Okay, so let's say you're given a fraction. So f of x, ax plus b over, let's go cx plus d. Okay, where these are numbers, okay, and the x is your variable. Okay, so how to find the asymptote? Okay, vertical is usually the easiest. Okay, and to do that, remember, vertical is the restriction on the domain, so we set the bottom equal to 0. So we go cx plus d is equal to 0, and then you solve for x. Okay, so I would minus d, divide by c, so my x would equal negative d over c. Okay, and this would be my vertical asymptote. Okay, you'll have a lot of those. Remember, vertical is x equals. X equals gives you the vertical line. Okay, now, horizontal. Okay, again, there's 3 types. There's vertical, which is straight up and down lines that you can't cross. Horizontal, where the graph won't cross. Okay, and then you'll have slant, at which the graph won't cross. Okay, so to find the horizontal of like this fraction, there's 3 ways to do it. Well, there's 3 different options. Okay, and remember what we're talking about degrees? We're talking about the powers of x. Okay, so on here, okay, it's not just a 0, it's this would be 1. Oh. Something like that. Okay. So these powers would be 1. So there's 3 options. If the degree is bigger on the bottom, let's start with the easier. Okay, and they all deal with degree. Okay, so the degree of this, if it's bigger on the bottom, it's automatically y is equal to 0. Always. Okay, so there's option 1, bigger on the bottom. Always y is equal to 0. Option 2, bigger on top. If it's bigger on top, okay, if we think about this, this power is bigger, then this will be able to divide into it, okay, and there won't actually be 1. Okay, so there's no horizontal, and it'll actually be a slant, because when you divide it out, you'll be left with something, and we'll show you that it'll be more like a slant asymptote, something like that. Okay. So bigger on top, none. There's no horizontal. Bigger on bottom, y is equal to 0. The third option is if they're the same. So if the degree is the same, so this is to the first and this is to the first, okay? So it's the ratio of coefficients. Okay, and what that means is this coefficient is A, this coefficient is C. All it is y is equal to A over C. Okay. So those are the 3 different types. If it's bigger on bottom, 0. Bigger on top, it's a slant. If it's the same, then it's the ratio of the coefficients. Vertical, set the bottom equal to 0. That's it. Okay, and to find the slant, you would divide out those 2. You would divide out and just use long division to take this divided by this, and that'll get the slant. Okay, so let's go through a couple examples. So the first one, f of x is equal to -4 over x minus 3. Okay, and we got to graph that. Okay, we have to get the vertical, we have to get the horizontal, and we have to get the graph. So let's do a vertical first. Okay, remember, vertical, you set the bottom equal to 0. So we just go x minus 3 is equal to 0. And you solve. X equals 3. Okay, so if x equals 3, then the bottom equals 0. And you can't have that. Okay? So x equals 3, I'll go over 3 and draw my asymptote in. Okay? The next one, horizontal. Okay, the degree is bigger where? It's bigger on the bottom. Okay, so it's because this is 1, there's nothing up here. So the horn, if it's bigger on the bottom, it's automatically y equals 0. So that asymptote just goes right down this line. Okay, and now we just got to sketch the graph. And remember, where it's a negative over the x, okay, the basic graph of something over x looks like this. Okay, since it's negative, it'll get flipped. So it kind of ties into the graphing that we already done. Looks like that. Okay. So next one. F of x is equal to 2x minus 6 over x minus 7. Again, verticals, not bad. Set the bottom equal to 0. X minus 7 is equal to 0, so x equals 7. Two, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's my vertical. Now, horizontal. The power up here is 1. The power here is 1. Okay, so it's the ratio of the coefficients. So y is equal to 2 over 1, which is equal to 2. Y is equal to 2 looks like a horizontal graph. Okay, and 2x minus 6 over x minus 7, see how the power will be positive. Okay, so the graph should look like, I believe, look something like this. Okay, and if you don't know, you could always test it. So like, let's say 0. If the value is 0, okay, is it negative? Well, is it below this value? Okay, and that's how you can kind of tell. Is it below 2? So if I plug in 0, 2 times 0 minus 6 is negative 6. And 0 minus 7 is negative 7. So it'd be 6, 7. So it is below this line. So you know it looks like 2 of these things. And like when you plug in values, it'll tell you whether it's going to be below the line or above the line. So if you ever have questions, just plug in a couple values. Okay. Next one. All right, now we get a little bit more difficult. F of x is equal to 12x squared plus 8x minus 4 over negative 3x minus 8. Okay, so let's do vertical first. Set the bottom equal to 0, so negative 3x minus 8 is equal to 0. Add your 8, negative 3x is equal to 8. Divide by 3, x is equal to negative 8 thirds. I can draw that. Negative 8 thirds is just over negative 2. Somewhere in there. Oops. All right, so to do the horizontal, realize that the degree is bigger on top. There's 2 over 1. Okay, so there's none. There's no horizontal. But that means that there can be a slant. Okay, so the slant you find by doing long division here. Okay, so what I would do, and I don't know if they're going to make you do this or not, but it's good to know how. 8x minus 4, and then negative 3x minus 8. So you just do long division like we've done. So negative 3x times what is 12x squared, and that'd be negative 4x. That'd be 12x squared. Multiply this and this, so that would give you 32x. Change your signs. So it's negative 24x minus 4. Negative 3x times what is negative 24, and that's 8. Okay, and once you get to this, you can be done. Okay, so negative 4x plus 8, that is your slant asymptote. Okay, so we could graph that. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So my y-intercept is 8. Slope is down 4 over 1. Down 4 over 1. Okay, so there's my graph. Through those lines. Let's see if I can do this. Now it should be dotted. Maybe I shouldn't have done that. Let's try that again. Imagine that I actually hit it. Okay, so now, in order to graph this though, we need to figure out where the graph actually goes. So it's got to be here, 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 here. And remember, it's going to be like two looping things. So I would plug in 0. That'd be the easiest one. And figure out, is it in this? Because if it's not, then it's over here and here. But if it's in here, then it's here and here. So I'm going to plug in 0. So that'd be 0, 0. That'd be negative 4 over negative 8, which is equal to 1/2. Okay, so it's somewhere in here. Okay, so my graph will look like this. And follow those asymptotes, which means it's got to be opposite. So it's going to, the other part of it's going to be. Okay. Okay. Couple more. The next one, f of x plus 6 over x squared minus 49. It's bigger on the bottom. Okay, but vertical, set the bottom equal to 0. Add your 49, so you have x squared is equal to 49. Square root that, but remember it's plus or minus, so x is equal to plus or minus 7. Horizontal, it's bigger on the bottom, so it's automatically y is equal to 0. So I can graph that. Okay, so anytime you have two vertical asymptotes, usually the graphs look like this. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And the same thing, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so again, this is positive. So this one's going to look like this. This one's going to look like this, just like the normal graphs. But now there's something in here, okay? And what we just got to graph this portion. See how it's both positive? It goes up and to the right. So it looks something like this. And there would be your sketch of it. Okay. All right, last one. So anytime there's two asymptotes, it looks like that. Negative x squared minus 7x plus 1 over x squared minus x minus 56. Notice it's negative. Okay, so down here, verticals, I'm going to set the bottom equal to 0. So x squared minus x minus 56 is equal to 0. There's two ways, quadratic, or you can try to factor. And the factor is x minus 8, x plus 7. So two numbers that multiply up to negative 56 but add up to negative 1. So x is equal to negative 7 and x is equal to 8. Those are my two vertical. My horizontal, Okay, notice this is power of 2, this is a power of 2, so they're the same. So it's the ratio. So -1 over 1, which is equal to -1. Okay, so now we just got to graph it. Horizontal of -1. Vertical of -7, say right there. And 8, say right there. Okay. Notice this is negative. Okay, the power is negative. So what the graph should be is flipped. It should look something like this. Okay. And notice, instead of going up and to the right, actually I'm not sure where it goes. So I'm not sure which way it goes. So let's see. Around here. If I plug in, let's say -3, what happens? So -3 squared is 9. So that'd be -9 minus 7 times -3 is +1, which on top would be -9 plus 21 plus 1, which would be positive. So that would be 22, 13 up top. -3 squared is 9 minus -3 minus 56. So this would be 12 minus 56, which is really low, so -42. So it's -13 over -42, which is really close to 1, I guess. To a -3. It's somewhere right here. And to tell whether it's going up or down, I'm going to plug in 3. If it's down here, then the graph goes like this. If it's up here, then the graph is up here somewhere. Okay, so if I plug in 3, what happens? 3 squared is 9. So that'd be -9 minus 21 plus 1, which would be -30 plus 1, -29. And then 3 squared would be 9 minus 3 minus 56. So it would be negative, or that would be 6 minus 56. Minus 56 would be -50. So -29 over -50, which would be positive. Okay, so it's somewhere up here, because negative over negative would be a positive. So see how this one's higher than this one? So your graph, if you didn't know, would go like this. Okay, so that would be section 6.1, part A. Let me know if you have any questions.